now. We're good.
Okay, to call to order the meeting of the Norwalk Public Library Board of Directors, and present are Sharon, Janie, Mary, Ralph, Moina, and Alex. And Sherelle Harris as acting executive director. So why don't we go to the agenda? Next item on the agenda is additions to the agenda. Sherelle, do you want to just indicate what the addition would be?
So the addition would be the community services fair at the library.
Okay, we'll get to that under your section when we get there. Any other
Thanks
additions?
so much.
Any other additions to the agenda? All right, if not, are there any members of the public who have signed in to make comments? All right, if not, we'll go to item number 4, approval of the minutes of the February 11th, 2021 board meeting. Is there a motion to approve the minutes?
I'll motion to approve.
Okay, that's Sharon?
Yep.
All right. I did not have any corrections, so I congratulate the minute taker on very good minutes. Does anyone else have any revisions they would like to propose? And I'm looking at the minutes, so I can't see any faces. If you just speak up if you have any revisions. If not, then I'll ask for a vote. All those in favor of the minutes as submitted, please indicate approval.
Aye.
Aye.
Any objections? Any abstentions? All right, if not, then the minutes are approved unanimously. Thank you. Out of consideration for the longer purpose of tonight's meeting about the candidates, I have not listed any items under President's report, so I will forego that. And we'll turn to the administration report from Acting Director Harris.
Thank you and good evening, everyone. So first on my agenda is the employee health report, which is pretty clean. We had one main library staff member's mother contact COVID, and that person had, was on vacation with their mom. So there was no chance of them contacting or infecting other library employees. That employee has since, as of today, tested negative. So, that's a good thing. And we had another library employee's husband test positive, but the employee tested negative. So we are in good shape at the library. For the library one-day closing update, the main library is now open again, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. on Wednesdays. Supervisors were asked to poll their staff members and reported that their teams felt safe and comfortable with the reopening. The South Norwalk branch remains closed on Thursdays due to being short of staff. And all departments continue to stagger their schedules with the exception of the technical services department. That department doesn't come in contact with, and I'm sorry, I wrote employees. It should have been with the public. And it proved more cost effective just to bring that team back into the building. Any questions so far?
Yeah, I'm sorry, I didn't quite hear what you said about the South Norwalk branch
So-
on Thursdays.
Yep, it will remain closed due to shortness of staff. So staff still need like a day off and that sort of thing. We're in the process of interviewing staff. So I'm hoping within the next 2 to 3 weeks, well, actually within the next month, we should be able to open again.
Good, so this is just a temporary situation.
Just temporary, yes.
Good, okay.
Sherelle, I have a quick question. Just for the husband, if someone tests positive and it's a spouse, does the employee have to quarantine? Do they get retested? How does that work?
So what happens is the employee definitely has to be tested if they're in the home with someone who tests positive.
I think my question is then, because the test can show negative and then they could get it 3 days later, does the employee have to quarantine?
until at present, they do have to quarantine. But they said if they test negative, that they can come back to work.
Wow, okay. Yeah, wow.
Well, to follow up on Sharon's
I'll
question.
follow up on it, because I know they've made some changes even to the quarantine. It was 14 and then it was 10. I have some updates, but I can present that at the next meeting.
That would be great. I'm just curious. Thanks.
No, I appreciate that question.
I would think, sure, I wonder if you're going to inquire with the health department, you might ask them, shouldn't they be conducting shouldn't there be multiple tests for a person whose spouse at home has contracted the virus? Because as Sharon said, you could be negative one day and positive 3 days later. And if there's only one test before coming back to work, that might not be sufficient.
Gotcha. Okay.
Is that what you were getting at, Sharon?
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, that's a
everyone.
good point. Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, moving right along. So, I put in the packet the state reopening status comparisons, and it looks like Norwalk is, fairly average with our current schedule compared to other libraries with our similar population.
Oh, sorry, Cheryl, go ahead. I didn't know if you were finished or not.
No, go ahead if you have a question.
Yeah, so I was wondering about that, like on the third column, when it says, let me see, because I was looking at this list. So the building open to public, lending to non-residents, and appointment required. So the yeses are obvious, like yes, but all the libraries that don't have any information, does that mean they're open, or does that mean that they don't do appointments, or what does that mean?
So most likely, hold on, let me just go back to that. I had a question about the zeros, but I couldn't get that answered. Hold on one second. So are we looking at maybe Ansonia on the first page? Is that your, like?
Yeah, well, yeah, I was just curious, like, I guess I'm just trying to get a sense of who's doing, like who's doing appointments, who's open, who's like what.
Right, so if the building is open to the public, it's yes, because some people may be open. The state was at a 2.5 opening, which means they could have gone to half capacity. We just chose, in Norwalk, we're being extra safe, so we just have one person per visit. So,
but we're listed as open. So, I mean, our building is, it says.
We're open by appointment, yes.
By appointment.
So they haven't gone in depth as to who's, actually doing the 2.5, like half capacity, or just, they haven't gone. There's just, if you're open, if you're lending to non-residents, or if you're only, lending to your own, or if you're open by appointment.
Okay.
Anything else?
So it would appear from the chart that Westport is in the same status as Norwalk.
Yes. So Westport, yes.
It's the same on the chart.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yes.
Yep.
Okay.
Any other questions? Okay.
I guess I'm also, I know we're going to make our own decisions based on what's right for us, obviously.
Mhm.
But I do wonder with the governor's, all the reopening that's supposedly happening at the end of this month, like, where do libraries fit into that? And is there anything specific about libraries and any of that?
So he did say that libraries could open. There is an article that's Connecticut has pushed back. Connecticut libraries have pushed back, and I can share that with you. today. I can send it out via email, but there has been some pushback. And I'll get to our report, but I know our supervisors and staff, they don't want to make any changes until everyone has at least had the chance to be vaccinated, whether they choose to or not, but at least,
Yeah,
before
no,
we start
I
opening to
get
the
that.
public.
I can very much sympathize with that.
Mhm.
Sherelle, could I ask as a follow-up, has there been any discussion within the city in terms of requiring vaccinations for city staff?
No, not that I've been privy to. So whether it's mandated, is that what you're saying, that all city staff have to have it?
Yes. Has there
I
been?
have not heard that yet, no.
Okay. No, I'm not
I
saying
can
it.
ask specifically.
So I think if you do that, you might also ask what plans, if any, should the library or any other heavily visited facility run by the city do if some staff are vaccinated and some staff are not?
Good question. Okay,
Thank you.
sure, thank you. Anyone else? Okay, so our partnership, the collaboration with the Board of Ed, so the pods are closed now due to attendance issues. And so I sent just an overall student to see how the students did academically. And it looks like, obviously, the students, attending the pods with high attendance also had high GPAs. So we have Sono, Main Library, and the Carver Center. And Sono, as of the last month, before they closed, had 13 students, Main Library 5, and the Carver Center 9. And so you can look at the GPAs and you can look at the attendance as well.
But this is just reflects the self-selection of families, correct?
Mm-hmm.
This is no outcome from whether the pods benefited the students, I assume.
Well, it looks like, it did, the ones who, had the higher GPAs. So it depends, because some of the students didn't attend. There was an issue with very low attendance for a variety of reasons. But just my takeaway from this was the students, who did come and who did come consistently, did well. But there were other issues with, just students just didn't come. They did not do well with online learning or with the hybrid. But if you want me to take a deeper dive, do you have deeper questions?
No, I think I'm just cautioning people against reading too much into this chart, because, one would have to show that the GPA was caused by the attendance, differential or something. I mean, I'm glad we did it. I'm glad that looks like we had pretty good attendance. Whether or not that changed a GPA of any student, I don't think we have enough experience to make that judgment. But I'm glad that at least we're looking at some of these factors.
When
And you
I
have
looked
additional
at it,
questions.
I'm glad to see the student GPAs. I see that there's a number of students in Sono that did attend Sono, and I just thought it was a good chart. Something that at least we have some sort of marker to start basing on, whether these pods possibly was a good idea, and something that we might want to consider in a different venue later on. So I thought the student GPAs, I was really glad to see that.
Yeah, the only thing I don't know, Mary, is what was their GPA before the
Before
pod,
that, yeah.
and what's it after?
I
Again, I'm
understand your
glad to know the
question.
information, but in terms of has there been any movement caused by the availability of the pod, I don't think we can make that.
That determination.
I do
So I
understand.
know a lot of it was based, confidentiality. There was,
Absolutely.
it was like pulling teeth, actually trying to get some of the information. And I understood, based on student confidentiality. However, I can ask the question of the students that they did list. I can ask, if they can give us the GPAs prior.
Again, I'm a little skeptical. I'm just glad we offered it. I think the attendance was good. I think it might be interesting if there's any way to get any, I'm not quite sure what little, paragraph essay from any of the students about how they felt about it. I think that would be, kind of interesting. I don't know, it just seems to be awfully complex as a matter of causality to see whether 3 months in the pod changed the GPA measurably or not.
Yeah, I guess I didn't look at it as change. I looked at it as just seeing, where they were. I think I would have been very concerned if, they were 2.7 and below. But it looks like, for the.
But those are the
some
kids,
of them,
those are the
you know,
kids you
it's pretty
want,
healthy.
right?
Pardon?
Those are the kids you want in the pod. The kids who are
What do you
very
mean?
low
Right.
achieving, you want the pod to help them. That's why, I'm just curious to see what it is. And to me, I think the attendance is the key
Exactly.
factor. Okay,
Mhm.
well, thank you.
You're welcome. And then there's the VITA, the tax update. At present, every single slot in both libraries is full. So people are calling and, they filled up very quickly. So we have no more slots available.
Wow.
April 15th is coming.
Yeah.
Yep. So people really wanted that service. And for the operating budget cuts, Alex and I actually attended a meeting prior to coming to this meeting. And so there was one good thing that happened. DPW has agreed to plow South Norwalk, whereas, we were absorbing that in our budget. So they've agreed to plow our lot. And the city is also plowing the main library's lot. So $100,000 is deducted from our part-time budget. And we also, some of the cuts that we presented were from our subscriptions, and that's our magazines, which, people aren't really reading a lot of magazines these days. And so the pro forma was 35,064, and the proposed cut was 4,000. For our grounds and outdoors, the pro forma is 10,404, and the proposed cut was 4,000. And just to note that that's the budget from which our snow plowing comes. And then food, we reduced by 3,000, and that pro forma was 8,160. So in total, the library has given up roughly 111,000 in cuts. And Alex, I don't know if you want to speak. Alex spoke very eloquently at the meeting. So I don't know if you want to say a few things.
Yeah, just briefly. I am concerned that the library is taking a disproportionately high budget cut, even though I recognize, of course, that the city should be looking for savings and economies. But my concern is that at every stage of the budget, the library seems to take a pretty big whack. For example, we took a big one in early retirements. And as a result, some positions were abolished. Then we took another whack when unfilled positions were eliminated, now including the full-time custodial position. Then we're taking a whack in terms of $100,000 being removed from the part-time budget. And now we're being asked to take another, I forget, 5% or whatever the number was.
Yeah, it was
half a percent.
5%.
Sorry, half of 1% reduction as the budget moves forward. So at each one of these stages, it may not look excessive, but when you add them all up, I'm not sure it's been proportionate. The point I expressed to the mayor and the Board of Estimate tonight is that I'm very concerned about the elimination both of the full-time custodian and the reduction in the part-time wages budget, because the idea was if they eliminate a full-time custodian, they can use part-time help to replace that. And that they can also use the city's kind of maintenance firm called Guardian that does usually the bigger capital budget maintenance items to bring them in as needed for custodial support. But the Guardian services not just the library, but also the police department, the fire department, and several other departments. And if two or more departments have a sudden need, I'm not sure that in practice it will work well to get the coverage we need. So the mayor committed to keeping an open mind going forward, because I think once we reopen, the worst thing that could happen to us as one of the most heavily used city facilities is to have a post-COVID incident of some kind, perhaps caused by insufficient sanitation or cleaning, because our two custodians, one of them might get sick, one of them might have vacation. There are split shifts, so the library is open across two shifts. There are these real problems coming up, and I'm just concerned that in the post-COVID environment, which is very different than it may have been in the past in terms of opening, that we're not jeopardizing, public safety by these cuts, which in my mind are excessive. Now, other people explain why they did it, and obviously, I'm not there on a day-to-day basis, but I think it is a matter we have to watch closely. I'm going to ask Sherelle to, keep a close eye on cleaning and sanitation needs, whether the reduction of a full-time custodian is impacting that, and making sure we have either sufficient money in the part-time budget or we seek to have a full-time custodian restored. But they were, I thought, receptive to our discussion tonight, and we'll just try to keep a close eye on it.
Okay.
Alex, just so I understand, all of these things are still in negotiation, or are they kind of pretty much done deals? Is there anything that further that we can do to, kind of really lay out kind of the unfair burden that the library is taking? And I completely agree with you. It feels short-sighted, given that, hopefully at some point we're going to reopen and may need more resources than ever before. I mean, to really keep a library kind of running in the way it, open in the way we'd like it to be. So,
I think
so
to
that's the
answer your
first. Go ahead.
to answer your question, Moina, I think it's a done deal now. I think the purpose of tonight's meeting was in part to have all the departments identify their half of 1% cuts on top of all the other cuts that were already made. So this is getting pretty far down the road. But I think we raised the issue. Until we reopen, it's going to be a little hard to judge exactly what the gap is between the resources that we've been given and the needs that we'll have to fulfill to protect the public and staff. And we'll just have to keep it close and their promise to relook at it if a problem develops.
And the second part of my question is, I know that has the capital budget, it looks like it's still in progress. Has there been any talk about the, you know, the cuts there on the renovation to the room in the main big room in the auditorium, that's what I'm trying to say,
Right.
or the city, the Our Archives?
Yeah, so the good news is that, as you know, the finance director cut out both items. The good news is that the planning commission restored the digitization of the hour. And I heard that they were interested in the reasoning that we gave for the auditorium refresh, but didn't feel they could do it. I have talked about that issue in person, or not in person, you know, by phone call with the mayor. And I think he well understands our position that in the post-COVID environment, that room is going to become much more important than it has been in the past, because it allows for the maximum of social distancing within the library, and the idea of improving the AV services to allow better streaming of library programs is, one of the most important post-COVID needs of any library. So I thought the mayor listened very well to our arguments, and the next step in the process is for him to make his recommendations to the Common Council. The council will be holding a public hearing about the capital budget that Sherelle and I will let you know about the date. I think it's what, April 1st, Cheryl?
Yeah, yes, it's in the packet.
Yeah, I saw that.
Okay, yeah. So, sending an email or a Zoom to the council, I'm hopeful the mayor may restore the funds, and if so, we would want to ask the council to keep them in. So there has been, one good step forward, and hopefully we'll get the other one done as well.
Alex, excuse me, I have a question. Is there any federal money coming to Norwalk that we could potentially tap into at some point? Especially
Yes.
because
The answer is yes.
Sorry, go
The
ahead.
bill that passed yesterday, fortunately, is generous in an unprecedented way to both states and municipalities. And there's a figure in the budget that in the American Recovery Act that passed yesterday, that the president signed today, about how much each municipality could expect to get. I don't know yet what process the city has set up to discuss how the money will be spent. Some of it is restricted. There's some capital money in it, some operating money, some of it dedicated to education, some of it dedicated to small businesses. So I think once that gets reviewed, we'll certainly, make sure that the library needs are considered. And thank you for raising that, Sharon.
Thank you.
Ready to move on, or anybody have any other questions?
And I want to thank Sherelle for, discussing with the supervisors which items might be cut for this 0.5% savings. I think they did a good job coming up with the least harmful kinds of cuts.
They did not want to touch programs and book budget. So, and right now what they're all doing, I asked them to put together their staffing needs so that we know what it looks like post-COVID. So we're not waiting to do it. We're looking as we go along. So, because I don't think that we'll see. Yeah, so they're putting together their staffing needs now for post-COVID. All right, any other questions, or can I move on? You're breaking up, Alex. I can't hear you.
Okay, please move on to the item we added to the agenda.
Oh, okay. So that is So this fair is basically in response to the impact that COVID has had on students. You know, in some instances, you know, kids have missed 100 days, you know, of school. So it's just making sure that families have access to all of the resources that they may be unaware of. And it will take place during spring break. There's no food. They will have masks available. It's foot traffic, basically similar to what we did when we had the COVID testing at the main library. So they're capping at 25 vendors and 20 to 30 people at a time in the parking lot, which would be supervised by the human services staff as well as the church across the street. So far, I know they're meeting tomorrow just to finalize whether they're actually going to do it or not. But so far it's the Early Childhood Council, the Community Service Department, Family Navigators, Open Door Shelter, the Greater Norwalk Human Services Council, and Family and Children's Agency so far.
Well, as I expressed in my email to you and the board, I'm a little concerned about making sure that the arrangements minimize the sort of lack of social distancing that could well arise if more than 30 students at a time turn up, which seems likely given the publicity that all of these organizations could do. I know you can't do it. I would feel much more comfortable with a pre-registration arrangement like we had for the Halloween activity at the library. But if that can't be done, I think you need to find out, what if 50 kids show up at the same time? You're going to let 30 of them into the parking lot. What happens to the other 20?
The other 20. So we did discuss that. They can use their facilities across the street too.
Okay.
And honestly, they said, which I told them, there's no way of knowing, but they're thinking because of the families that they're targeting that they don't think there's going to be more, than 50 families that will show up.
Well, I can tell you this, that with the nice, I live in East Norwalk, and what we used to call Mr. Frosty became very popular today with the warm weather. And I think families will be looking for ways to get out of the house and do things together. And it's supposed to be nice, a little colder on Saturday than it is today, but I just hope people are prepared to handle this situation and not let it get out of hand. I don't know what goes into this thinking, let it get out of hand, but I think, people need plans in place in case more people show up and can be accommodated in the parking lot or in a short line, and they need a plan for that. Now, maybe if they can go.
You're breaking up, Alex.
You froze, Alex.
You're frozen.
Oh,
okay. Yeah, I'm writing him a note.
You may need to get off and come back on.
Is he aware that he's frozen? Or is he talking?
Probably if no one's responding to him.
Yeah, he's probably going to get off and on again.
Yes, he got off.
Oh, okay.
Sherelle, you mentioned that you may be having a meeting in regards to this tomorrow.
They are meeting, so they're still, we always want to be good neighbors if we can.
Absolutely.
So they're still up in the air, and it's great because a lot of these kids need some of the services. I mean, missing 100 days of school is pretty substantial. So they are meeting tomorrow to finalize whether they're actually going to go through with it or not. As of today, she said yes, but they do have a meeting tomorrow. There is the possibility.
Is it for this Saturday?
Yes.
It
Oh,
is,
the 18th.
Like,
no, it was for, no. wait,
No,
wait.
next
the
Thursday, I
19th.
believe.
oh, next Thursday.
Is it next Thursday or next Friday?
Yeah,
Oh, yeah, I was like, wow.
I know, right?
That's late.
I think that would have been a little, yeah.
Well,
Okay.
and trying to wait for Alex, but one of my thoughts is that the police department has a community service kind of fun thing. If
Mhm.
we could ask the organization if they could request
The police, yeah.
community service police to be there to sort of monitor,
Monitor. So that did
you know,
come up
just in case.
because sometimes they'll say, yes, but then we'll get hit with a hefty bill. So we can ask them, so I did ask them too. They think they can do it with, you know, with their staff, but I can bring it up again. But I know, you know, sometimes that cost can be a little hefty.
And I do understand that, but again,
No, I
I'm
understand.
addressing the community service
For them to pay
budget
for it.
line item for the Norwalk Police Department. And believe me, there is one. Okay,
Got
whether
it.
they use it or not, it's there. There is one,
Okay.
which should not be a cost to, you know, the organization.
Mhm. Got it.
Hey, Alex.
You're muted.
Thank you, Mary. I lost my internet for a while. Sorry. So
Okay.
goddamn annoying, I must say. Jeez.
It's true.
And I got a hotspot here, you know.
Ah.
Did we vote on the fair for Saturday?
No, we didn't vote on it. I did just ask Sherelle if she could go back to them and ask them about, you know, community service policing. And she was stating that they had that discussion, but sometimes there is a cost, you know, but I know there's a budget line item for community service policing, and maybe they could ask the question
Okay,
and we would feel much more comfortable.
okay.
Okay.
All righty. Any further discussion about the issue? I guess then, all in favor of participating in the fair, please say aye or raise your hand. Any objections? Ralph, can you hear us? Okay.
Mr. Knopp, who moved the item?
Um,
Do we know?
I'll move.
Thank you, Mary.
Thank you. Let's see. Ralph, can you hear us?
Oh, there. You're muted. Isn't he muted? Was he muted?
Doesn't look like it.
Oh.
He looks like he's still on.
Hmm.
Let me try him again because we're going to go into executive session.
My phone decided to mute itself.
Okay. But can you hear?
I can hear.
Okay, so Ralph, we're going to go into executive session and have a discussion about the candidates. Do you want to try to have Jeff resend you, or can you try to dial in again?
Let's just try and see what happens.
Because we're going to go to a separate Zoom.
All right.
Okay, remember my email? I said we have a Zoom just for the executive session? Okay, so we're going to do that now, okay? Jeff, maybe you can stay with us after we go in executive session, just to make sure that everybody's connected.
No problem.
Okay, thank you. All right, we have one piece of old business to deal with. That is the request from a leader of the Sikh community to address the board about what he and others regard as inappropriate materials in the library. We invited him just before the pandemic shutdown occurred. So I'm suggesting, and he wrote again, that we invite him by Zoom next month. And if you take a look at what Sherelle said around, you'll get a idea of the background of the discussions that we've had. So I just want to indicate that's what I'm planning to do.
Sounds good.
Okay. All right. I think that's the conclusion of our business. And I just want to get the exact wording here that I asked the city for.
Do you want me to send it to you?
No, I've got, just takes me a second to,
Oh, okay.
when I lost my internet, I sort of shut everything off.
Oh.
So I will, so I got to find the revised agenda here.
Alex, do you want me to do a share screen?
No, I've got it. Thanks, Sharon. I've got it.
Okay.
Sorry. So I will move that the board enter into an executive session pursuant to Connecticut General Statutes, Section 1-200, paren 6, paren capital A, for the purpose of discussion of candidates for the vacant Norwalk Public Library position of Executive Director. Is there any discussion about that motion? If not, then all in favor, please indicate by raising your hand or saying aye.
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 Any objection, any abstentions, then it's approved unanimously. And I now invite all of you to go to a second Zoom that the city sent
Oh, no.
under the
My
name.
mom's in the car. I am not worried whatsoever.
But I didn't get no Zoom. I don't have no Zoom at all from the city.
It
So I
was
don't
sent,
know.
I'll just tell you, because I just pulled mine up. It was sent at 1:23 PM, March 10th by Rebecca Kovacs.
By Rebecca yesterday.
Yes,
I
sir.
don't,
Okay,
I went through my mail. I do not have, I had to use my old one to get on. I didn't receive anything. That's
Okay.
I
all
can
I'm
send it
trying
to
tell
you, Jamie.
Oh, wait,
I
well, Jeff,
didn't receive it.
Okay.
I don't know where you sent it. I didn't receive it.
okay.
I'm
Rebecca
sorry.
sent
So
it to
if
me.
you could send it again, that'd be great.
That's what we're going to try to do. So Jeff, can you send that to Janie?
Yes, let me just look.
Thank you.
Yeah, let me just see.
Because I went through my mail and it didn't, I didn't see it at all.
Janie, your name was on the list. So
I'm sorry?
I know I put your name on the list.
You
And
probably
Rebecca's
did, but
usually pretty good. Did you look at the date that Sharon mentioned?
I went through the whole my whole mail by date. I did not receive it. I even went to my
Yeah,
junk mail. I did not receive it. So I don't know where it went.
It's on here.
Okay,
I
okay,
did not receive
okay,
it.
got it.
I don't see your name, so.
Okay, you sent it again?
No worry, I'm going to send it again. Just 1 minute. I need to-
All right.
Yeah, it's not on there.
You guys said it came from Rebecca, right? Kovacs?
Yes. At 1:23 yesterday.
Okay, I got it right here.
So Sherelle, we'll call you when this meeting is over.
Perfect, okay, so I'll skedaddle. Thank
Okay,
you,
good night,
everyone.
everybody.
Wait,
Bye-bye.
wait. No, we'll see you again in the foundation
In a
meeting.
few minutes, okay, let me know,
Yeah.
I'll be waiting.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, bye-bye.
Okay, Jenny, what email address should I send this to?
It's May1_105
Oh.
at msn.com.
Okay, you are on here, actually.
Sorry, I missed the first part. Can you spell that again?
MAE1_105 at msn.com.
Okay, May1_105 at msn.com.
Can we jump off now and go the other room?
Yes.
That meeting, it's not started yet.
Oh, okay, sorry.
Bear with me 1 second.
Okay.
So I just started that meeting. If you have the invite already, try to see if you can get on there.
Okay.
Are we jumping off? Yeah. Bye.
Yes. Yes.
Goodbye.
All right, so we're getting off here and getting on something else? What are we doing?
Yes, you have to leave this meeting and go to, everyone except Jenny, leave this
Okay.
meeting and go to the
And go
new
to
link.
another one. Okay, all right, I just want to make sure. All right,
Yeah.
thanks.
Yep. It should be.
and there's no objection.
Oh, okay, perfect. So this is it?
Yes, and I've ended the other meeting.
Okay, perfect.
Thank you very much, Jeff.
Thank you. Good night.
Good night.
All right, bye.